tutorial, we are going to talk about interaction modeling. Interaction modeling is the third leg of modeling tripod and describes interactions between the objects. Here in this tutorial, we are going to cover use case diagrams. Now, interaction modeling, if we talk about, it describes how the objects interact to produce useful results. We are actually talking about the behavioral aspects of our model. Earlier, we covered class modeling and state modeling, which was talking about actual class modeling was talking about the structural aspects. Here, interaction modeling, we are looking into the behavioral aspects of the system. It is actually the holistic view of behavior across many objects. So we are seeing how the objects are interacting with each other if we talk in the terms of object-oriented programming. In interaction modeling, there are different levels of abstraction. To cover, there are 3 levels of abstraction. First, at the highest level of abstraction are the use case diagrams, and the use cases describe how a system interacts with the outside actors. It is actually useful for capturing informal requirements. The overview of the system is given and the interactions between the use cases by the outside actors is depicted in this kind of diagrams. Second level in interaction modeling comes when sequence diagrams are described and they provide more detail and show messages exchanged among a set of objects over time. Third level of abstraction is when we are talking about the activity diagrams. Activity diagrams provide further detail and show the flow of control among the steps of computation. It is actually showing the data flow as well as control flow. Now today, we are talking about use case diagrams. First of all, what is a use case diagram? The various interactions of actors with the system are quantized into use cases. Actually, we identify the different functionalities of a system and describe it as the different use cases. And then we identify the interaction of the use cases with the outside actors. So I can say that a use case is a coherent piece of functionality that a system can provide by interacting with the actors. Now in UML, a use case diagram can summarize the details of your system's user, also known as actors, and their interactions with the system. Now, why and when to apply the use case diagrams? When we are representing the goals of system user interactions, by seeing or by looking at the use case diagrams, I'm very much clear about how my users or the external actors are interacting with the system and what are the different functionalities or the use cases in the system. When we define or organize the functional requirements of the system, the use case diagrams come into the picture. Or we specify the context and the requirements of the system. So it is easier to understand as it is the high level of abstraction, and somehow we are able to know that how the external actors are using the functionalities of my system. And also it is used to model the basic flow of events in a use case. So actually we have, if we are drawing or depicting a use case diagram, we are identifying the functionalities or the use cases and making the actors interact with those use cases. Now I'll talk about the different notations in the use case diagrams. First and the foremost step would be to identify the use cases. Now, the use cases are the different functionalities of my system. Again, I'm saying the set of use cases, they are showing the complete functionality of the system at some level of detail. So UML has a graphical notation for summarizing the use cases, and for use case, we use a horizontally shaped oval and we write the use case into it. For the actors, now actors I can identify as the external actors or the actors of my system. It may be a database, it may be some internal actor who is there in my system, who's involved in my system. For example, if I take an example of a bank, the external user would be the client or the customer of a bank. The internal user may be the bank database or a bank person. So I have to identify all the actors involved in my system. For representing the actors, I use the notation of a stick figure. So stick figures are representing the people that are actually employing the use cases or using the functionalities of the system. This is the stick diagram we'll be using to denote the actors. Third thing which we'll be using in our use case diagrams will be the associations, which will be denoted by a single horizontal line or a line between the actors and the use cases. And the last one is the system boundary boxes. It is a box which covers the whole scope of the system. So we identify all the use cases, encase it in a rectangular box, and name it at the corner of the box. We'll see this notation when we are describing or making the use case diagrams. Let me show you one raw diagram. This is, suppose I have denoted a rectangular box. I was talking about this. It is the system boundary. Use cases are written inside the system boundary, and the actors, which are the external actors, are written on one side of the system boundary, and the external actors are written on the other side of the system boundary. And here you can see the actors are denoted by the stick figures. They are connected by the associations or the lines. Here I will discuss one example, one basic example of use cases. You can see this is an example of bank ATM where there are different use cases: check balances, deposit funds, withdraw cash, transfer funds, maintenance, repair. Actors involved with the system are the customer, the technician, the bank. Now, bank here is an internal actor, which is actually handling all the functionalities involved inside the bank, and the customer and technician are the outside actors. So on one side, I have denoted all the external actors, and on the other side, they are internal actors. So all the functionalities or the use cases identified are connected with the horizontal lines. So I can say that the customer is using the use case check balances. If he's checking the balance, then it is also interacting with the bank. The bank will provide the detail and then he will check the balance. So this is how the flow of use case will go. Let us understand some more details of use case diagrams, the relationships which we have to use in the use cases. First is the include relationship. Now, what is include relationship talking about? If I have identified certain use cases, like here in an example, you can say place order, cancel order, login. These are three different use cases. Now, these three different use cases can be interlinked as well. Place order or cancel order, these use cases may have certain subroutine. Now, if I'm including a subroutine, for example, I'm using a functionality and a certain functionality is automatically calling a subroutine. That means if I am executing a use case place order, you will have to log in as well. So that means the place order use case and login use case, they are interlinked through include relationship. If I'm placing an order, automatically the subroutine of login will be called. So this is actually denoted by a dotted arrow towards the included subroutine. So I read it as the place order. If this use case is run, then automatically this will include the login use case. If I run the cancel order use case, this will automatically include the login use case. So the arrow is towards the subroutine. Second relationship we will talk about will be extend use case. Now, extend use case is effectively an alternate course of the base use case. That means if my base use case here is return book, so return book use case may or may not extend the functionality to the book damaged use case. That means this functionality may or may not be extended towards this. The use case return book may or may not require the another step, that is the book damaged. Now, here the notation is denoted by the dashed line towards the base use case. If I read a use case return book and it has an arrow towards it with a functionality extend written over here, that means that return use case may or may not extend its functionality or use case towards book damaged. Third relationship would be abstract and generalized use case. The generalized use case is same as we discussed in class modeling, wherein we can generalize the use case into 2, 3, or many different categories. For example, if I'm here denoting verify visitor identity, I can verify the visitor's identity either through fingerprint or through ID card. So this use case, verify visitor identity, may be generalized into 2 categories. Now see, here you can see the generalization symbol is the same as we used in the class diagrams. So general use case is actually an abstract. This may not be used. Only the use cases verify visitor fingerprint and verify visitor ID card. These 2 use cases may be used. So again, to summarize the include relationship, it is included use case is like a subroutine and the arrow goes from the source to the target, which is included, and we write include within angular brackets. Extended relationship, it adds an incremental behavior to the use case and it may or may not be used. It is not compulsory to use the extended relationship. That means the extension is adding itself to the base. The arrow will be pointing towards the base. And third one is the generalization, which shows special variations on general use case. Now here I've just given a problem where I've identified certain actors and certain use cases, and just to show you how they are connected, they are can be connected through the associations and can be summed up like this. I'll discuss one example here. This example discusses the actors site user and one more user. Here, different functionalities are linked with the use cases. I just want to emphasize on the include use cases, wherein if a site user searches for the document's full text, he will include download docs use case in it. That means if you're searching for the documents, you are automatically downloading the documents. You are also previewing the document. Where in case, if I talk about the extend relationship, if the site user is uploading the documents, he may or may not use the functionality of managing the folders. Again, if an admin is adding a user, this is an admin actor. If he's adding the user, he may or may not extend the functionality of adding the company. So here, extend and include, both the arrowheads are on the opposite directions. So maybe in another tutorial, we may discuss more examples of use case diagrams. So this was all for today. Thank you.